It's Monday, December 4. In the headlines, new Data Protection Act is now in effect. In business news, we feature this week's Young Boss and more. Regionally, Guyanese are pleased with International Court of Justice order. Internationally, Venezuela holds referendum on oil-rich Guyana region. And in sports, Glenmore High wins ISA Champions Cup. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The new Data Protection Act is now in effect. The new legislation, which officially came online on December 1, should provide greater safeguards for the handling of personal information of Jamaicans held in physical or electronic form. Entities, particularly those that process personal information on a daily basis, are required to implement measures to ensure the safety, security, and confidentiality of the data that they handle. And failure to do so could result in them facing harsh penalties, including hefty fines. These entities include public authorities, financial and educational institutions, health and security service providers, processors of sensitive personal data, among others. Under the new law, these organizations or individuals defined as data controllers are required to be registered with the Office of the Information Commissioner effective December 1 and pay an annual fee. The legislation, which was passed in 2020, is poised to transform the way organizations manage personal data, including the collection, storage, utilization, disclosure, and disposal. The Child Protection and Family Service Agency has been working on an integrated response to eradicate violence, abuse, and exploitation of children. Director of Children and Family Programs at the CPFSA, Dr. Warren Thompson, provided an update during a JIS think tank.
211 hotline, I think, is well known. Toll-free 24-hour 3-digit number was implemented in 2021 to increase the access for children in particular. We expanded the service, moved it from 16 hours to 24 hours, moved it from Monday to Friday to 7 days per week. We increased the number of persons working on the line. We're currently providing different kinds of therapeutic services, and we're looking to expand that. So we're looking at occupational therapy. We are working on developing a child protection early warning system. And the child protection early warning system is aimed at leveraging community resources to engage in early detection of children who may be at risk and activate a response.
The International Labour Organization, ILO, is sounding an alarm about the increase in child labour worldwide. The term child labour is often defined as work that deprives children of their childhood, their potential, and their dignity, and that is harmful to physical and mental development. In Jamaica, a 2016 study showed more than 37,000 children identified as being child laborers across the country. Minister of State in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Dr. Norman Dunn, says in the last 9 years, the ministry has increased its sensitization on child labor.
We know, like myself, a lot of us grew up in the rural areas, and we have participated in a number of activities that can be or could be construed as child labor. And therefore, it's important for the ministry in its work to identify the distinction in particular between child labor and child work.
He notes that Jamaica is signatory to ILO conventions related to the prevention and elimination of child labor, adding that the minimum wage for youngsters in the workforce is 18 years. Director of Industrial Relations and Allied Services in the MLSS, Gillian Corodas, says the Jamaican experience is complex because it is cultural.
For instance, we have parents that may have a small shop and they may be selling chemicals, cleaning chemicals, and so. And we may not recognize that the children are being asked to facilitate this kind of work. We also have small business persons, micro business persons that may be involved in small construction, and we do have situations where children are carried to these construction sites exposed to hazardous conditions.
A study done in partnership with the ILO and the Statistical Institute of Jamaica shows that approximately 64,000 children are at risk of child labor. To this end, 40 labor inspectors and 120 social workers will also be trained by ILO representatives to bolster efforts to eliminate child labor.
The regional initiative is a commitment that was made at the highest levels of the authorities in our region to come together, to collaborate between and among each other, to be able to speed up the pace with which we were actually taking action and achieving results to prevent as well as eliminate child labor.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Meats, cheeses, and fruits on a board, in a box, in a jar. Whatever you'd like and however you'd like it, Grace JA will personalize a charcuterie board that is just for you, and that's why they are this week's Young Boss.
So my name is Katrina Codner and I'm the CEO of Grace JA. So Grace JA is a registered online business that offers charcuterie-based products. It's typically a box that comprises of preserved products such as cured meat, cheeses, and fresh fruits. In the heights of COVID 2020, I was online looking at Pinterest and I saw just a board that looked amazing, and I was like, you know, I'm working now, but I need a hobby. And I know that Jamaican people love things that just look good. So I was like, am I gonna try this? I did it and it was a hit, and from there, here we are. So for me, I'm very big on customer service. Even though a lot of persons don't know the face behind the business, I take pride in my reputation. So it's not just me making a box or a board and giving it to you. At every step of the way, I involve my customers, and personally for me, when I go out or I buy something, clothes, my customers always commend me on my customer service, how much of an effort I put out in ensuring that what they're getting meets their expectations. And if there is ever an issue, I will remake it for you free of cost, and you will always, as a returning customer I should say, you're entitled to a 20% discount. So it's not just about me having a business. I want you to feel good when you enjoy our product. And it's just typically, or basically rather, I should say, it's where a bougie lifestyle meets your budget. So you can find us on all social media platforms at GrazeJA, GRAZE.JA, or you can email us at grazejamaica@gmail.com.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Friday, December 1, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.95. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $116.47. The pound sterling traded for $195.01, and the euro sold for $172.73. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by over 521 points. The junior market index declined by over 14 points. The combined market index advanced by over 366 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by over 1,439 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 101 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 45 declined, and 13 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, AS Bryden and Sons Holdings Limited, and Access Financial Services Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Caribbean Insurance Brokers Limited. Trading firm were Belgian Paints Jamaica Limited, Caribbean Cream Limited, and Siboney Group Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 3 million units, Regency Petroleum Company Limited with over 1 million units, and Edufocal Limited with over 900,000 units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, the mutual fund market did not record any activity. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Government of Barbados Bond Series B was a sole security trading 20,000 shares. In regional business, digital payments in Trinidad and Tobago continues to evolve as WePay is set to launch a digital app which turns smartphones into digital payment solutions for small businesses.
WePay is expected to launch soon its innovative mobile app called Color. John Molentiel, WePay's Chief Operating Officer, speaking to CNC3 Business Watch, says with the Color app, a customer can scan their QR code and pay a vendor or merchant through their mobile device.
The customers use their phone to scan the code and enter their bank card details on their device, so there's no contact. The second thing we showed in terms of getting paid and how easy it is tap to pay. That's a really sexy one. So my phone, this phone, your phone, is actually a point-of-sale device. It has that capability.
Also speaking was digital strategist Karen Rose, who explained in detail how customers can be protected from the cyber attacks.
We wanted to be able to use a card that would act like a firewall. So we could load a card with our funds from our credit card or our bank account, load this charge card, and use that to shop online. And in doing that, if that card ever gets compromised, we would just log into the Color app and turn off our Color card.
At the private unveiling at Arazi's restaurant on Marval Road last evening, a demo showed how users can pay utilities, do peer-to-peer transfers, and accept or send remittance payments.
In international business, S&P 500 closed at its highest level of the year on Friday as comments from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell bolstered the view that key policy rates have peaked.
Wall Street's main indexes notched their fifth straight week of gains on Friday, with the S&P 500 registering its highest close of the year, as comments from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell bolstered the view that key policy rates have peaked. The Dow climbed 0.8%, the S&P 500 gained 0.6, while the Nasdaq added more than 0.5%. Powell's remarks, delivered at an event at Atlanta's Spelman College, reflected an increased confidence that the current policy rate may be adequate to bring inflation down to the Fed's 2% target. Brad Bernstein, managing director at UBS Private Wealth Management, believes that in 2024 the Fed will have achieved a soft landing for the economy.
we think the Fed will be cutting by the summer. And I think the market and the economy will be starting to really price that in. Yes, I do think that based on strong labor demand, solid investment spending, and sizable household savings still, we will absolutely avoid a recession next year.
In company news, shares of Pfizer slid 5% after the drug maker dropped plans to advance a twice-daily version of oral weight loss drug danuglipron into late-stage studies, delaying its entry into the lucrative market. Shares of Marvell Technology shed more than 5% after the chip maker's fourth-quarter revenue forecast fell short of street estimates. Ulta Beauty surged nearly 11% after the cosmetics retailer raised the lower end of its annual net sales forecast and named a new chief financial officer. And shares of Paramount Global jumped about 10% following a report the media company and Apple have discussed bundling their streaming services at a discount.
In market data for oil prices extended declines on Monday, pressured by investor skepticism over the latest OPEC Plus decision on supply cuts and uncertainty surrounding global fuel demand. Brent crude futures were down 45 cents at $78.43 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 43 cents to $73.64. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denita Rodney.
In regional news, the business community in Guyana has welcomed Friday's ruling by the International Court of Justice that Venezuela should not take any action to seize control of Guyana's Essequibo region. The ruling has also done much to allay the fears of the ordinary man in the street. The collective call of all Guyanese now is for Venezuela to respect the court's order and the rule of law.
What it says to us is that, one, that there are some concerns that we need to address, things that we probably would have overlooked in the past. But certainly I must commend the government of Guyana to be steadfast in their pursuit to bringing clarity to this once and for all.
Hey, I'm David Reyes, I'm Team MMR. Today's ruling from the ICJ, it gives you calm, it gives you positive outcome of this ongoing battle. And we need to trace back, and we've seen a lot of persons tracing back history now that it's a now thing or it's only 10 years, 5 years. This has been a battle a very long time, and you need to educate yourself as a Guyanese to know the history to where we're standing. So something like this today, it's a great feeling as a Guyanese for me, and especially during this time of the year. It is a lot of tensions, not only in Guyana but around the world, but those kind positive, unanimous decision from the ICJ, it's a great feeling for Guyana and to the way forward in developing this nation.
It's in human nature to be nervous and to be very concerned about a matter such as this. Of course, you think about your security and your family and your business and everything that will be disrupted. But certainly, we have to look at the facts and be very pragmatic about it, right? There is a situation that can certainly escalate, right? We want to ensure that, one, that we are being vigilant about it, and two, gather all information as possible, right? To make those strategic decisions when and if something is supposed to happen, right?
The ruling today, I expect no different. Being a patriotic Guyanese, standing up for independent country, and we known to be one of the democratic country in the South America hemisphere. For me, is the Venezuelan government is being unreasonable on the
Policies must be adopted to help mitigate global temperature increases in order to avoid the loss of human lives. Those strong words came from Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, at the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP28, in Dubai on Saturday. More in this report.
A global methane pledge launched at COP26 in November 2021 aims at cutting methane emissions from human activity by 30% by 2030. Prime Minister of Barbados Mia Mottley said the reality is that the global methane agreement that the world needs to see has not yet come.
Where is it going to be found for the progress to be made and to avoid the tipping point? We need oil and gas companies to agree to fix the leaks in their pipelines and to ensure that they also stop the flaring.
Prime Minister Mottley called for strong regulation and compliance to ensure that countries can minimize the extent to which methane continues to lead and hurl the world into hotter temperatures.
We need to make sure that waste management practices as well as farming practices are changed in order to be able to control the level of methane that the world is seeing. The science must be simple. To turn down the heat, you simply have to turn down the methane. And until we accept that, we will go over a tipping point.
The 28th session of the Conference of the Parties, COP28, convenes in Dubai from November 30th to December 12th. Karen Cozier-Phillip, TTT News.
Barbadian Prime Minister Mia Mottley wants the world to prepare for climate change impacts on health. She addressed that issue at the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Dubai. Ms. Mottley says she welcomes efforts by the global health community to ensure the impact of climate change on health takes center stage in the ongoing negotiations.
I pray that this understanding and this agreement to have health at the center now formally, while it has been the reality of too many millions of people across the globe, will mean that we can also seek to get ahead of the curve with respect to the things that we know are likely to happen. We expect that there's a strong possibility of new pathogens that will develop. We expect that we need to be able to ensure that we are in a position to treat persons when and if these new pathogens become a reality across our globe. Whether we like it or not, there is serious inequity in the world with respect to access to pharmaceuticals. And the time perhaps has come for a South-South alliance that allows people to opt in and countries to opt in to ensure that we can create the markets in the global South and that we can have a just industrial strategy that will allow for access. Had it not been for the vaccine apartheid, we probably would not have paid sufficient attention to this inequity. And it isn't only in relation to vaccines, but let us deal with cancer, let us deal with other debilitating diseases.
In international news, Venezuela held a referendum on Sunday on whether to establish a new state in a disputed oil-rich territory long ruled by Guyana. The vote came after the International Court of Justice urged Venezuela to refrain from taking any action that could alter the status quo in the region. However, it did not specifically ban Caracas from holding the referendum, as Guyana had requested. Al Jazeera has the details.
Venezuelans voted overwhelmingly in favor of their country's claim to annex a large swath of neighboring oil-rich Guyana in a non-binding referendum on Sunday. But despite a major campaign by the government of Nicolás Maduro to promote the vote as an act of patriotism and assurances of a massive participation, the turnout appeared to be low at many polling places, forcing authorities to extend the vote by 2 hours.
We were hoping to see more people voting by this time, especially since this is a cause we should all care about, regardless of political color.
The referendum asked whether citizens favored establishing a new Venezuelan state in a long-disputed territory known as the Essequibo, a region that has been part of Guyana for more than a century. Venezuela has tried to reclaim it since the 1960s. The recent discovery of large deposits of crude oil has heightened tensions. President Nicolás Maduro labeled the vote a success.
We are solving through constitutional, peaceful and democratic means an imperial dispossession of 150 years.
On Friday, the UN's International Court of Justice, that has jurisdiction on the case, ordered Venezuela not to take any actions that could affect Guyana's sovereignty over the region. But Venezuela's aggressive rhetoric and actions, including moving troops along the border, has many Guyanese on edge. Their president sought to reassure them over the fear of an invasion.
I want to assure Guyanese that there is nothing to fear over the next number of hours, days, months ahead. Of course, our vigilance will be enhanced, but we are working around the clock to ensure that our borders remain intact and the people and our country remains safe.
Many analysts believe the referendum is mainly a ploy for Maduro to drum up support ahead of next year's presidential elections. But if it is a distraction tactic, it's one that is creating real worry across the region. Alessandro Ampietti, Al Jazeera.
In sports, Glenmuir High School lifted the ISA Champions Cup for the first time on Saturday. The team earned first place after beating 2021 winners Clarendon College 3-2 at the National Stadium. The two teams also will meet in the Costa Cup final next Saturday at the same venue. It was the second all-rural area Champions Cup final. In other sporting news, Dominica has advised that they are no longer able to host matches in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024, which takes place in June 2024. Cricket West Indies confirmed the news last Thursday. Dominica had been initially selected as a host venue for the highly anticipated tournament, along with 6 other countries in the West Indies: Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Guyana, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Trinidad and Tobago. The International Cricket Council has announced that 20 teams for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup has been finalized.
Uganda has been confirmed as the final qualifier after beating Rwanda by 9 wickets to ensure a top 2 finish and book their place in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024 in the USA and West Indies. This will be their first appearance in a senior ICC World Cup and join Namibia from the Africa qualifier in the tournament, which will feature 20 teams for the first time. The final list of qualified teams for the event is Afghanistan, Australia, Bangladesh, Canada, England, India, Ireland, Namibia, Nepal, Netherlands, New Zealand, Oman, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, Scotland, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Uganda, the United States of America, and the West Indies. Before today's historic win, Uganda had claimed victories from 4 of their 5 fixtures, beating Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, and Kenya, only losing against co-qualifiers Namibia, who remain unbeaten in the tournament so far. The ICC Men's T20 World Cup will be hosted by the West Indies and the USA and is scheduled to begin on June 4th, 2024. Wayne Cunningham, TG Sport.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks for watching.